Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to Franchise CXO Dialogue. This series involves learning from thought leaders at leading franchise organizations. Hope you all are keeping safe and healthy. My name is Ashita Mara, and I'm the CEO of Franchiseindia. I'm very excited today to welcome Mr. Praharsh Chandra, who's the COO of Shadowfax. It's India's largest crowdsourced logistic platform. He's an alumni of IIT Delhi. Started his career as a consultant in A.T. Kearney, a global management consulting firm. But when his friends Abhishek and Vaibhav presented the idea of a startup, with a social impact in the narrative, he knew that this is something that he wanted to do. And Shadowfax was born then, and Shadowfax has already, now a successful company with a distinct solution in the form of an application that combines the power of crowdsourced delivery partners, bikes, and LCVs through a single platform for hyperlocal and e-commerce deliveries and end-to-end logistics solutions. This app also doubles up as a learning platform for partners to upskill and train every delivery partner to make delivery a pleasant experience for customers. Today, Shadowfax has a base of 100,000 crowdsourced partners across 600 Indian cities, and doing over 1 crore order worth a month, and enjoys the trust of over 5,000 clients. It has a robust 1,000 plus franchisee network, and it connects about 500,000 shipments from sellers to customers each day. As a 5-year-old, Shadowfax is one of the fastest growing companies in the logistics domain in India. We also have with us Mr. Gaurav Maurya. He's the chairman of Franchiseindia and is highly regarded for his contribution in popularizing franchising in India. So, I would like to start this with Praharsh, that Praharsh, Shadowfax is by far one of the greatest so-called franchise business successes in recent times. And being one of the founder members of the team, if you can just take us through some highlights, of the last 5 years of your journey as to how it has been, and from where you've come in.
Yeah, sure, Ashita. First of all, thanks a lot for having me here. Always good to have few interactions, especially given the times we're in, right? I mean, it's not very easy to meet people and have such forums, especially now. So thanks a lot for helping organize this session, and thanks to you, Gaurav, as well, right? I'll just give a quick idea about Shadowfax, because unlike a lot of other companies, we are a B2B platform, so a lot of people might not know about us. And then I'll of course be more than happy to discuss a bit on our journey since we had this idea, right? So Shadowfax is basically a crowdsourced B2B express logistics platform, right? We basically have two forms of services. I'll very simply put it down. One is a point-to-point logistics network, which for businesses is essentially Uber for logistics, right? If you are a company who needs a person to move a product from one place to the other, you ping our servers, we find the nearest delivery boy for you. He'll go conduct the pickup and drop the shipment, right? So it's one side of the business, and then any kind of vehicle that you need in the ecosystem, right? Be it a delivery boy or on a bike, or you want a light commercial vehicle, etc. That all kind of forms part of the first piece, right? The other is a hub and spoke logistics network. That's your traditional logistics channel. Someone like a DTDC, Blue Dart, Delivery would be our competitors there. And just to give an idea about how that supply chain looks like. And there, of course, we work on both the B2C side, wherein we deliver to the customers. And then you've got the B2B division, wherein you deliver to retailers, distributors, warehouses, etc., etc. So that's who we are as a company. And thanks a lot for the numbers. I think you've already given some hint of the kind of numbers we've been able to scale up to. So that's where we are. But our origins were slightly different, right? I think in 2015, when this whole thought came in, it was a time when a lot of people were thinking about redesigning supply chains, right? People wanted to become closer to the customer. 2-hour, 1-hour delivery was something which is starting to come off. And what we felt was that, if people are actually going to do this, how are they going to build this whole framework to deliver products at a cost which is effective enough? It's very easy to say that I'll get products closer to the customer and I'll deliver it in an hour or 2 hours. But how do you actually build the infra which is sustainable in the long run? So one of the things, so that was the origin of the idea itself, and hence we entered into this whole hyper local logistics piece, and that's our initial base business that we had. I think we had our pilots in Delhi. We were a very young team at that point in time. We were very lucky to get a initial round, which was a Series A, not too after our first pre-seed round, right? So within 6 to 7 months, we were able to raise some capital because of some good work on the tech side, etc., that we'd done. And that helped us kickstart our expansion, really, right? So we went to Gurgaon, and then there was a hunt for which should be our base city, right? We jumped from Gurgaon to Mumbai to finally Bangalore. As we realized it's easier to hire tech talent here. So we started off, like I said, with the hyperlocal piece, and then at that point in time, there were tons of companies, right? At least 10 to 12 competitors in the B2B space itself who were working, and 3 of us were decently capitalized. As fate would have it, we ended up acquiring one of them. And what that added was also a capability into the mix, because that company, apart from hyperlocal, was also working on hub and spoke logistics. So this whole business of hub and spoke side is not something we built on our own, or we had this great thought that no, we should do it. It's something that happened, and the point here is, sometimes there are some things which you plan, sometimes some things that just happen because of luck, I guess. But yes, what we did well post that was build that into something which is very beneficial for both of our ecosystems, both the point-to-point network and the hub and spoke network. And since then, I think so the hub and spoke piece was introduced in 2016. And since then, it's been an amazing journey. I guess we've had our ups and downs. 2017 was a very tough time for everybody in the ecosystem. Like I said, we started with 10 competitors. By 2017, we were left with 1. And in 2018, that one remaining competitor in hyperlocal space got acquired by Zomato. So we had to find our way quite a lot here, right? We had to stick around and kind of be diligent in finding the right model to get things working. And I guess 2018 was the year wherein everything started to click, right? Our business numbers started making a lot of sense. The business started growing immensely. And since then, touch wood, it's all been going well. Of course, the COVID came in, and you had to innovate at that point in time, identify newer models to do it. But in more ways than once, and I think we're a little lucky here, logistics is something that is needed even more now than ever before, because a lot of traditional companies, they had alternative ways of designing their supply chains, and now they're trying to do it a little bit differently. And then we stand at one of those situations wherein there is a lot of newer models we can introduce into the market, which people are also now more interested to try out. So I guess looking forward, I think things should hopefully be even more exciting.
Yeah. So Praharsh, I'll pick up from the first point you said in the evolution which we've seen, and we've worked with conventional logistics suppliers to now new age tech-based businesses, which are yours, and you rightly said your business is also split into 2 parts. One is a little bit on a demand centric, and second is B2B solutions, which do it in that. So what are the 2 or 3, 4 big innovations you see in this space? And is the market still large enough to capture?
Oh, totally. I think fundamentally speaking, traditionally, if you look at any supply chain, it's been built across a hub and spoke model, right? And the way that happens usually is that you have a larger warehouse, and from there you distribute products across various places in the country, be it a retailer or a customer, right? That inherently means that there is an associated time of delivery, which is in days, right? So there is a huge potential to introduce an alternative form just from a offering perspective. And you're saying that, no, fundamentally, we can design a supply chain which is cost efficient, wherein you can go directly to the consumers, and you can offer a slotted delivery same day, or a instantaneous 1-hour delivery, right? So those kind of models have a huge potential because they're not even been done before this. I think Swiggy, Zomato did it in the food side of things by opening a lot of dark kitchens. Before that, it was all decentralized. And that has given people ideas that if you can have dark kitchens, you can have dark stores. You can have stores wherein you can hold a lot of inventory and redesign the way you look at retail network, right? Instead of having physical brick and mortars, you can have dark brick and mortars, which hold the key SKUs which people in the neighborhood want to purchase, and then you can deliver that. So that's one side of, I think, of one of the things that, that it's going to be key. The other is that a lot of traditional supply chains have been built on finding a distributor network which can take products to the retailers. that's also changing. I think there is this whole piece of, and it's the buzzword these days, especially after COVID, of D2C logistics or D2C business lines, right? Wherein people want to go directly to the customers. And it's a strategy I think all of the companies really need to think about. And it's something which the larger ones are already thinking about. And it's one of the reasons which people are approaching us more than we used to approach them earlier, because it's another new model which is coming in. And anyone who wants to make some play here, there is a lot of opportunity again, because D2C, I think, takes up less than 5% of total sales, which any company would usually have, unless and until they are a D2C based company. Usual sales are distributed more towards the traditional supply chains. And given the COVID scenario, when people are venturing out a little less, there are D2C strategies become even more key, right? So I believe that in logistics, there is a lot of space and a lot of opportunity for everyone. Just the growth of this whole segment is huge. So even if the idea is not too dissimilar, you can make your footing in some way here. Plus, if you have something good and useful to work upon, I think there are some even more opportunities to work on. Just to give you another example, I think I spoke to a very simple volumetric weight measuring company very recently. There is a startup which came up during these times, and volumetric weight is one of the biggest issues in supply chain, right? Because all of our billing happens on that, and there's a huge dispute which happens that what was the way to send, and what the client thinks that you send, what the customer thinks you sent, and your billing kind of depends on it. So you need good systems to measure all of that, and those guys are building some interesting camera-based solutions, right? When your cameras, which are actually used for security footage monitoring, can also be used for measuring the products which were kept at a particular point in time, right? So I think if you start thinking about the supply chain as such, beyond logistics, just the core features which logistics need has enough space in it for people to think about and ideate upon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this would cause a lot of innovation. This would come other way around. Earlier, I think the product companies were doing, but now with the solutions like your company is bringing in, a lot of these companies would able to evolve their businesses. And almost every we are talking in the retail space today is talking about direct to consumer, direct to home kind of a businesses. And you're right, the next big change also in the retail side is coming in, where these are large dark stores. I mean, I'm talking to a company which wants to put up a 5,000 warehouses across the country.
Must be, yeah.
So, and these would be direct to home supplies. So they would actually try to replace a lot of these expensive retail points, which would be changed to a more dark facilities. And this would probably get into almost everything from medicine, from
right.
Anything which you are consuming today would start doing that. So it's a big disruption coming in the good days for your company to continue to evolve a lot of solution which would actually pivot these organizations to also think through and fresh. Any challenges you think in the industry which you feel are still not something which has been addressed, and any global example you would like to take upon that has a better capabilities on that side? And also another question to link with this is, because eventually it's a very people business, and every time there would be somebody who would come and disrupt the pricing and say, look, I can do cheaper than this and I can do much efficient than that.
Yep.
So is the price would be a challenge to sustainability of the business model?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it aptly, right? So the price and the whole design and modeling of it is something which needs to be discovered. I don't think D2C and these dark store models are already set in stone, right? That this is how you build it, this is how the economics look like, this is how you price it. A lot of thing is in discovery mode. So that, of course, is a challenge which people would need to work upon. The other is in this revised dynamics, right? You need to ensure, and especially when you cannot have sufficient amount of interaction with your ground teams, how do you ensure that even if you're running an infrastructure, it is running in the way you intended it to? How do you ensure that it is scalable? Because even if you can set up one dark store, it's not very easy to scale it to 1,000+ pin codes in the country. In India, in fact, you've got almost 18,000 pin codes. So actually, how do you truly give this service to every last individual who's there in the country? So I think scalability and the model fundamentals are something which are the biggest two that I would say right now. As we go along, of course, I think technology piece would be key here. We need to be building good solutions which can take decisions on their own so that it becomes easier to run the show on the whole. But since we've spoken a bit about the challenges, if you look at the first part of it, which is on the model side, I think, and I truly believe that it's one of those things which can be modeled again. And why I say this is because we've seen the same journey in hyperlocal. There were a lot of questions, that hyperlocal business is highly cost ineffective. It cannot really work out. It's very difficult to make money in that. But over a period of time, I can say that we've been able to do that, right? At least in that side of it. So that gives tremendous confidence that these models, even though on paper look difficult right now, would work out in the longer term, in the next 2 to 3 years time frame. And there would be a very nice little model which works from a costing perspective pretty evenly, or even lower cost compared to the traditional supply chains. So yeah, so those two are the models, and at least my view on how a few of those would be tackled as we go along.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So Praharsh, when the companies are growing, when you're working constantly towards making your services better, how are you keeping up, or how have you instilled, so-called the culture, in your organization? Because, most of the stuff like consumer service, or, building a great long-term brand, something that you're working on now, because you need a lot of people. How do you empower your employees and, customers, particularly, all of these four things happen on its own, because the company culture is a concept which is, somewhere easier to experience, than to let out every time. So how do you manage that in your organization?
Got it. Awesome. So I guess just to cover a little bit on that, right? One of the first things is that you need to be thinking about culture to actually inculcate into the organization, right? Because one of the things that happen is that people don't think about it enough. Immediately post-COVID, one of the most interesting things was that apart from reorganizing a supply chain, what the team was working on was redefining its cultural aspects, because we felt that it's going to be key, especially now in the revised dynamic when you're not actually with folks. How do you imbibe some key fundamentals that you have in the business when you're not even there with the folks? So we kind of relisted the 4 fundamental beliefs that we had as a company, right? And they basically customer centricity, innovation, empathy, and integrity, right? And we work with our HR teams to kind of reevaluate the strategies in which we have to be incorporating this into our organization as we go along. So it's one of those things that this reason we've been able to do to some extent is because someone is actively thinking on the problem statement. And I guess that's where it needs to start with. The next step is that it's very important for you to know who you are as an individual, right? You cannot be copying culture from some of the great organizations, right? You'll not become the most innovative company by looking at Apple's charter and seeing that innovation is the thing to do, right? I think it's very core and fundamental to the key leadership that you have, their behavioral instincts, the beliefs that they have, and the key success factors that have taken them to wherever the company is right now. You have to be honest enough in listing those 5-6 things, figuring out 2-3 further things that you feel you need to be adding as a skill set, and then identifying these 4-5 things are the things we believe in, and this is how we would want to be distributing it into the organization. Because that's when truly it becomes a little bit easier for you to dissipate information as well. Because when something, it's of course always easier to spread it around within the team. The next is, I think, and it's something which our HR taught me, to be very honest, and it's on recruitment. I think 90% of your culture is to do with recruitment, right? You can have all sorts of cultural framework that you want, but if there is someone who fundamentally believes otherwise, and it's fair as well, right? People have different ways of running things, but if there's someone who fundamentally believes otherwise, it's very difficult to align the whole group into doing similar things. So you need to have a very good recruitment policy in place, which allows you to identify people who kind of imbibe the things that you want in the company more so than others, right? And that goes across all levels, be it leadership, be it franchisee partners you're working with, be it delivery boy partners you're working with, even though in delivery boy side, you have to be a bit more open because hiring takes precedence over anything else. But you have to be in the lookout for that as we go along. So I guess those 2-3 things would be the ones that I would say are important so far as cultural aspects are concerned.
Yeah, I think so. And you rightly touch upon, I think that, and when you are wide enough and growing and scaling, because on one side, your investors want business to multiply 5x every year. And this would happen not only by just organic growth, it will also call for a lot of acquisitions. Acquisitions would mean that you are inviting a new companies which have a very different culture and now coming in. And there's some cultures are forced upon you. How do you continue to really get onto that journey is very important. So you also done one acquisition already and part of it. So Anything you want to talk about for companies who are scaling and then they do inorganic and then they organize, acquire these companies, how the cultural fitment would, because now you're given a unseen platform, and you need to really live with that. So what is your experience on that?
No, you hit the nail bang on the head, right? Acquisitions are the most difficult thing to do when you're trying to maintain a culture. We've done not one, we've actually done 2 acquisitions, and we've had a sort of a acqui-hiring thing, if you can call it, as well. I think culture came out as one of those things which becomes key, and it's something that we've kept as one of the core fundamentals which we look at beyond everything else, right? It might be a tremendous business fit, but the most important thing you need to look at is whether the founding team that is coming in, whether the team members that are coming in are aligned to the overall objectives and who you are as a team as well, right? So it's a check that we always do these days. We actually passed a few opportunities wherein we felt that this might be a risk, and it might be difficult to merge the 2 org structures. It's very important, even in the M&A scenario, to always check if the 2 companies actually gel with each other or not. And the other, of course, once it's done, you need to take active steps to ensure that things are aligned as well. Because the 2 organizations on paper being culturally aligned is just step 1. You need to actually effort to ensure things go well as well. And in the first acquisition that we did, there were a bit of challenges, but I guess once you took sufficient steps, once able to kind of redesign some of the structures people are coming into, more often than not, you can make those aspects work as well. So it needs a lot of active effort. The team that's coming in needs to be feeling part of the larger organization. There needs to be a lot of communication. I can't stress that enough. And I guess if those 3-4 things are in check, post-acquisition or post-merger, you'll find yourself in a better situation than otherwise. But trust me, none of the acquisitions are ever easy. I guess there's so many people coming in that it always becomes a bit of some challenge or the other always keeps on coming, whatever you do.
Correct. We do a lot of work in the mid-market M&A business, and we say more than the strategic call or a financial call is becoming more a cultural call now. If you are not able to do that, even if you have financial fitment or you have strategic fitment, you still cannot handle the business, because the business can go wild and not come in control. Even sometimes the founder being still part of the acquisition cycle, which means that you make the founder also inherit part of the business. It becomes even more difficult then, because he will continue to run the business. He wants to run the way it needs to be done. So the larger piece never comes in. And sometimes it can be a very, very deterrent to the parent function also. Now let's go into your franchising side of it, because another thing which is very important, because you have a large franchise network, the 1,000 network, which I was telling Ashita that we work with conventional companies like DTDC and likes of them. What took them for like 20 years, you did it in a couple of years, right? So it's unseen. This is what I love about scale up companies like yours. The thinking and the speed of acquisition and going into the market is sometimes unrealistic, sometimes driven from no baggage. Because if I go to a conventional company and say I want to do 1,000 franchisee in a couple of years, they would not even believe it. They don't want to even jump on the idea. For them, I think the whole cycle is a very conventional, old school. And this is what we explain people and say, what is a growth between what is scale and growth different? Why scale and growth? Growth is very clearly the conventional old school, where you will deploy equal number of resources to get that results, right? But scaling is all about where you can not scale much faster, but not deploy the similar proportionately resources on that. So what is your journey on franchising? How that happened very, very fast? And what is the obligations the franchisee has to do? What is the role of franchisee and where it is going now? And how you are further expanding on that?
Sure, Gaurav. So franchisee is an interesting one. I think in some ways our whole business is a franchisee out business, because what we do is we create a technology platform. People come on it, conduct logistics, and then make an earning or a living, right? But then I'm including a lot of our regular partners as well. Our true franchisee model actually started when we wanted to expand on our hub and spoke logistics business, right? We were present in around a 50, 70 odd city spread. And what we realized was that growing within the same cities plus expanding into, the next set of 1,000 cities is not going to be something which we can do on our own. We felt that it is very important to have partners, strategic partners, small, big, all sizes, right? Who could work with us in that journey. And if we do want to, right now we're in 4,000 pin codes. If we do want to hit around 19,000 pin codes of the country, are looking at almost at least 4,000 to 5,000 cities getting added into the network, apart from what we already have, right? So this whole expansion is something which we felt at that point in time that we couldn't do on our own, and hence we started off with the thought to franchisee out our last mile logistics space in all of these cities. Wherein what really happens is that you have a facility, and there we would drop the shipments on the franchisee's behalf. The franchisee needs to conduct logistics within the ecosystem and framework, right? So these would be shipments from your usual suspects, right? A Flipkart or a Myntra, etc., etc. And there are certain set of guidelines you need to be maintaining. The portals, etc., the technology platform, etc., are something that we provide these companies. And there are certain SLAs, etc., that they need to be adhering to against that. So this is what we started off with. This is our most successful part of franchisee network, wherein the numbers that you mentioned, right? You have around a total of 1,000 partners. We're trying to scale it up even more. What we've also done is we're actively been looking for ways to increase the earnings which a partner has. So what we added on top of this was also include a point-to-point network. So we said that if you're already there in that city, why not also hire some partners for us who can work in our point-to-point network as well. So we've kind of added that over the top of hub and spoke logistics, so that A, the franchisee partner gets a little bit more earning, and B, that side of expansion also becomes a little bit more easy for us to do, right? So those two are the core franchisee models we have in the network. And again, like I said, are the most scaled up right now. Apart from this, our whole business has an array of opportunities, and we're looking to outsource a lot of those as we would be going along. One is in our distribution network. So we've got, so like I mentioned, you've got almost 6,000 cities you need to connect, which means there are a lot of partners we need to be working with to deliver products from one place. On the other side, there are an array of opportunities that our business currently has that we are actively reaching out. One is on our vehicle ecosystem. So we have to be having a lot of a huge line haul network to move products from our source cities to various cities, right? We're talking about 5,000 to 6,000 cities in our network which need to be connected. So there's an opportunity there where people can help us do this distribution in various cities, right? So that's one side of the business. The other, and that's also an interesting one, we've got around 50,000 delivery boy partners in the network. And that means we have to add almost 5,000 to 10,000 partners every month into the ecosystem. So onboarding of these guys, training of these guys is a huge sub business of ours per se, right? And that's one of the latest things which we are actively working in franchising out. What happens therein is that our partner is responsible for identifying people who can work on the Shadowfax network, training and onboarding that particular individual, conducting the KYC activities that are necessary for any partner who's there on the network. And then of course, ensuring that that partner ends up doing a few orders in the ecosystem, right? So it's a very straightforward process, but anyone in any place of the country can become a partner with us if they can help us source people who can join our network, right? And that's another stream that has been recently launched. So these three would sort of be the core. Leading on from the ideas on dark stores, etc., that we discussed, right? There are a lot of facilities we will be opening in our core cities as well. So a bit of facility franchising out is also something that will come up in the near term as we build our business. So that's where the whole franchisee piece is right now, and that's where we see it. And those are a few of the newer models we see getting added into the ecosystem as we go along into the business.
Which is very interesting. I think from micro franchising to fleet partners to warehousing, so to say, partners. So almost every aspect of your business which is out there, you would invite franchisees. This can be a very
So the interesting thing is we are happy with any size of partner who's there in the ecosystem, right? There's not really a size barrier that you need to be having this much amount of money in the bank to be working as a partner with us. You might be a small scale company in a particular city of the country. You would be happy to associate. You might have an array of 8 to 10 14 cities. You might be a state-wise player. We are open to have partnerships with most kind of companies, so long as some of the other things are in check, right, from a capability standpoint. But yes, that lends itself to the fact that there is a lot of opportunities for people to come and partner with us on the network. And that's one of the core objectives we have as a company as well, that we're essentially a partner-driven company, be it the delivery boys, or partners, or franchisee partners. It's all working with people to make our ecosystem work out, right? So we'll be happy as an organization to take in more types of entities as we go along.
Absolutely. And today, I mean, I just can share with you, in last 5 months, the number one category which has applied on us, we get about 2 million people coming to Franchiseindia from people who are looking to buy a business and things. The number one category has been logistics. So it's, I don't know where it came from, but it's just, to me, maybe people thought that this business is much more in demand, and they saw the category. So we're getting almost every single day hundreds of leads, people who are coming on to that thing. So we obviously would reach out to you, and they can see an opportunity to partner with your company. Ashla, your questions?
Yeah, that's very interesting. How do you work with your partners, and what is it that you look forward to do with them in terms of expansions as well? So, when you manage a relationship, so I would like to ask you something on the management of the franchisee. So how do you manage the franchise relationship with them? Because, as you have three, kind of franchisees first, and then there are numbers of them in different cities. Obviously, they would be from different backgrounds, different cultures. How do you manage a similar thing as a company maintained with all your franchise partners? They would have their different, point of view, point of thinking. How do you manage that in a streamlined manner with them?
So interesting question, Ashita. So I think one of the first things that should happen in any relationship is that the financial construct should be aligned, right? What we've always believed in is that whether it's a delivery partner or it's a franchisee partner, they should be making money out of the engagement. If you're trying to squeeze people out, then sometimes the ecosystem just doesn't work out, right? So that's the most important thing we look at. And this is just, and I'll be speaking on a few of the aspects before you enter a franchisee model that we've been working on, and few of the aspects that you need to be ensuring once you start running a franchisee ecosystem, right? So the financial modeling of this is super crucial. The other important point is on fit. Both the franchisor and the franchisee should see the opposing party to be a good fit to their beliefs, right? You need to pass through this check. It's like it's with employees, it's the same case here. And I don't speak it only from a franchisor standpoint. I also talk about it from a franchisee standpoint, right? If there is any buying franchisee, they should also look at businesses and ideas and folks that they feel that they'll be most comfortable in working on a regular basis, because it's one of the things I've observed in all of the successful franchisee relationships that have happened till date, right? There was an existing comfort level as well in a lot of those entities with the company they were getting into with, right? So those two are the most important things that are needed to be done before you can think about conducting something franchisee. And then once you're running the show, and I'm sure a lot of folks would have spoken around it, engagement is probably the biggest piece, right? You need to be communicating, you need to be chatting, there needs to be a strong feedback process. Only then can you be continuously evolving the relationship and helping each other as part of an ecosystem and as part of a partnership, right? And with that comes the next most important thing, and that's transparency. I think from a company like us standpoint, we should be very clear in what is on offer, what would be the challenges in the first few months, and what would be the numbers looking like. And from any YM small business perspective, folks should be very clear in what they can and they, more importantly, cannot do. Sometimes when folks end up over-promising and things don't work out, the relationships start becoming a little bit sad. And more often than not, you'll find that the person that you're working with or the company that you're working with are very happy to know that there's something that you can't do. Because if there is something that you can't do, it becomes very easy for you to solve it. But when there is a viewpoint that, no, this will work out, we'll find a way to do this, no, we can scale up to 3 times. And then when that doesn't happen, it becomes a bit difficult to manage expectations, so on and so forth. So I think communication and transparency would be the key things that has worked for us, at least in the franchisees that we've worked with. And of course, 2 of the points that I mentioned before even getting into the engagement. So interestingly, on the first part, which is on ensuring that people get sufficient earning out of it, it's one of the biggest problem statements that we have. Even though we work on the problem statement of how we can make more money, one of the other things we also work on is how can our partners make more money and how can our franchisees make more money. If they make more money in the longer term, there will be more people who will be interested in working with us.
It's a fair point. And one of the things that has helped us and that we do quite rigorously is try to get as many processes down on our core technology platform as possible, right? What technology does is it kind of brings a consistency in whatever you're doing across various geographies, right? And just to give an example, there is this whole process of calling the customer from a masked number, right? Usually what you want to drive as a company is that in logistics is that the customers should not be called too much. You should try to do what is known as a silent delivery. Now, you can imbibe this as a culture with all of those franchisees by having very strong operations processes, regular trainings around it. Or what you can also look and try to do is have technology product which is so strong, which allows you to make this a very easy process to manage from a franchisee perspective as well, right? So right now what happens is every partner automatically conducts a masked call because it goes through our central server. The number of calls that you can make to a customer is kind of also limited. So there are an array of things which we use, which we kind of conduct using our core technology, which allows a bit of scalability issues or innovation, etc., to happen a little bit more seamlessly in the organization. And it's something which you need to be, as a franchisor also, you need to ensure that you're very nimble in doing, right? And it takes a bit of an effort. You can create a technology, but the other core aspect then becomes on training people on those processes, right? And hence the point on engagement and communication comes in here. You've created something, it's very important for your franchisees to buy into the newer way of doing things, right? And that happens if you can if you can conduct a good communication program, which paints a proper picture as to why this is important, why franchisees business also to be bigger than what it was right now, and why is it better for the core customers that we both are serving at the end of the day, right? Because all of these solutions that we build are ultimately to service an end customer. So that second piece becomes even more crucial. And in fact, one of the core investments we've made as a company is on our franchisee tech. They're working on a specialized portal only to have conversations, issue escalation discussions with a lot of partners that we work with. And already, I guess, our rider app, which is also a form of a medium wherein we basically conduct communication, is one of the most invested upon technology pieces we have as a company. So yeah, I guess those two things would be core to what has helped us at least to manage a lot of these changes that we do quickly. But yes, it's a constant process and a constant endeavor of finding even better ways to do this.
Absolutely. So any new markets you want to do? I mean, India is the game, or it's becoming now international for you, and you're looking for a...
Yeah, so I think we've never had a thought of going international. It's not that we can't do so, but we just feel that there is so much to solve within the country that we don't want to spend our efforts to solve anything for anyone else, right? Where, like I said, we're only present in 4,000 pin codes of the country. We're missing out on almost 16,000 pin codes. That means 16,000 places wherein we don't offer our services. So that's one of our core objectives as a company. We want to be present in the complete geographical expanse of wherever India is, right? So that's part one. The other, and we've always maintained a strategy to have a very strong vertical expansion. So logistics, like I said, we started off with hyperlocal. We introduced hub and spoke logistics. We went a little further behind and introduced B2B logistics. And then right now we're also doing a bit of warehousing, right? So we've done a lot of vertical expansion in the business line, and that is something which is going to happen. Anything and everything pertaining to logistics is something where you might, and we most likely will see us as a company. The other thing, and that's an interesting piece, and that's on a little bit of horizontal service offerings, right? So as a company right now, we only offer logistics, but it's our vision statement is actually pretty interesting. We actually speak about enabling commerce for everyone, everywhere. The interesting thing there is that it doesn't mention logistics, that we're going to become the largest logistics player in the world, or so on and so forth, right? What we have always wanted to do is that essentially we're a technology-based, app-based platform, right? Most of the people interact with us through that. And currently what they do is a task which involves logistics, right? Moving products from one point to the other. What we want to be doing as well moving forward is add a lot of other type of tasks and activities onto the same platform. Now, to give you an example, it can be something as simple as an address verification, right? So KYC is very important these days. We've got almost 50,000 partners across the country. And these activities usually pay a little bit more than our regular business logistics pay as well that we usually get with our clients, right? So this becomes one of the tasks that we want to add onto the network. The other is background verification, KYCs. You've got insurance checks where you need people to go on ground, check vehicles, take their pictures and come back. You've got store audits that a lot of large companies want to do. Even a company like Oyo, right? They need their properties to be audited. And given we have so many people across, there are an array of horizontal services that you can technically add into the network. Now, why are we taking this up right now, or thinking about it at least right now, is also because of one of the earlier points I mentioned, right? Which is on increasing our partner earning potential. If we can technically add more avenues of higher revenues, that will lead to more people sticking around on the platform a little bit more, right? And anyways, this is something which is core to our overall business vision, and this is something which we will introduce as a business as we go along.
Absolutely, great thought. I think businesses with the kind of leverage you have created and the kind of structure you've created, you can bring in a lot of new last mile services. And I think what we have really seen is direct to consumer product delivery. I think we now would start seeing direct to home, direct to consumer service deliveries, and a lot of other services which would start coming in. So Ashita, over to you for the last comment. We are coming on the end of the.
Yes. So, after talking to you, Praharsh, I've realized that you're pretty much involved in your work for like 16 to 18 hours a day. What do you do for that half an hour that is being left every day?
No, I actually, it would appear so, but I spend around 10 to 11 hours. I think it's important to wind down and do something else, because it just gives you some thought to figure out some of the larger problems that you might be missing, right? I have always felt that it's important to come out of the box to see what the box is. So I do that quite a lot and very often. So I think there are an array of stuff that at least I personally like doing. I'm a big fan of indoor games and board games, especially during lockdown. I think we found innovative ways and online ways of playing a lot of the traditional games that are there out there in the market. And I find anyone and whoever is interested in playing a round of game, I'm usually more than happy to indulge in that. So that's one side of it. The other thing that I usually really like doing is music. I think if there's nothing else, there's music. So I do a bit of guitar playing and all as well. So it's just ways in which you spend a little bit more of your time. But yes, so that's one side of it. And then lastly, and very important, I follow a lot of football news. I'm a huge football buff. I follow some of my favorite teams very rigorously, pretty passionate about it as well. We have a lot of arguments in our office actually happen on on things not related to business. So yeah, these are the 3-4 things I spend my time on. Right now, interestingly, I'm like I mentioned, I'm not in town, and hence so many issues in my connectivity as well. Since I'm traveling, I'm not able to do a few of these things. But right now, I'm kind of using the opportunity of this travel to actually meet some of my family members, etc., that I had not been able to meet since the lockdown happened. So I guess you make best with whatever is available to you at various points in time.
Absolutely, but you have to be careful. You have to be careful. So best wishes, Harsh. Thank you for joining us today. We really had a great session with you, and I will see a big future for your company and the growth you're doing. At Franchiseindia also, we feel that there are a lot of people who would be interested in partnering with you at different stages, and all the different 4 aspects. We will reach out to your office and help them to reach out to your concerned departments and who are interested in doing it. Any last words, Ashita?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Praharsh, for being here and taking out time. I can completely understand that, this time taking out time is something which is really important. So I'm completely flattered that way. And it's always, a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you so much. And, for our visitors, attendees, there are a few links that you can follow us on. And in case you're interested, you need any more information about Shadowfax, you can write to us directly, and we'll connect you with Shadowfax.
Thank you so much, Gaurav and Ashita, for having me over. My apologies again for the connection. I spoke to Ashita and I was telling her how I was a bit fearful about how my connection would pan out, and so it happened. I was actually keeping my fingers crossed.
We kept
So,
it.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So for anyone who's listening and anyone who's interested, would be more than happy to have team members pitch in with any kind of information that would be needed that we might not have been able to cover here. And again, thanks a lot for having me here, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Praharsh.